Good evening and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this evening. How are you all doing this evening? There is a poll running already. I'll tell you why we're running the poll later on in the video. But should Celtic pull the B team out the Lowland League? Does it really work? Do we need to go back to our reserve league? Is it making the B team players better playing at such a low division? Considering that they want to be top professional football players, and that's the reason that they're at Celtic. But we'll come to that later on in the video. Martin O'Neill. I obviously done an interview last night that went out today, and it was all about the game this weekend. But it was a classic Martin O'Neill interview, wasn't it? Obviously, it was just typical Martin O'Neill. You know, honest, emotional. You know, just breaking stuff down and realism. Do you know? And that's what I love about Martin O'Neill. And it's funny because you get a lot of what just happened there? You get a lot of comments saying, "Oh, you're dead negative," and it's not. It's a bit more pragmatic and a bit more realistic. I mean, there's no use coming on here and saying, "Yeah, everything was fucking amazing last night. We were brilliant. We won our game." No, we didn't. We were absolute garbage. We won the game, but we were absolute garbage for big chunks of the game last night. But Martin O'Neill talking about Oxlade-Chamberlain and what he expects from him and what he brought him in here to do. You know, he admitted that basically that look, that's why we brought Oxlade-Chamberlain in, is to have an effect on a game. And you know, Martin O'Neill talking about the last minute goal. He says he wasn't expecting it. He says that there was a calmness in the chaos. You know, it was a big game mentality, and he's a big game player. He's won everything that you can that there is in football to win. That he's the type of player that will help Callum McGregor, not hinder Callum McGregor in the midfield. And I think that we all know who we're talking about when there's someone hindering Callum McGregor in the midfield. It's a player that it just doesn't, his heart doesn't seem to be in it. But that's, if you talk about Rio Hatate and the fact that he's absolute pish, you'd be negative about Celtic, and it's not. It's just realistic that the guy's absolute wash and his head must be somewhere else. But talking about Oxlade-Chamberlain, Oxlade-Chamberlain was talking last night after the game about the fact that he wants the fans back in to create the famous atmosphere. The famous atmosphere. The famous atmosphere. Sean Dixon, I'm just one of the comments that's just come up. Thank you everyone who has commented already. Their keeper had some game. Could have easily been 3 or 4 at half time. A big score is coming, Baz. Hopefully Kelly on Sunday. Well, I'm not too sure about Kelly on Sunday. I'll be honest, mate. We will get to that later in the video. But Kelly have beat Aberdeen at home 3-0. They won, what was it, 4-2 last night? In the league. Here's their result from last night. I don't know, was it 4-2 that they won last night? They're scoring goals at home. Kilmarnock away is never an easy place to go. Never has been. But we will come back to that. And we will talk about the game this weekend, even though it's only Thursday night, but it's the last live at night that I'll do until Monday evening. So I think we may be live on Sunday night though. Just saying. Back to Martin O'Neill talking about Oxlade-Chamberlain. He says, look, he gives you something, he gives you technical, he gives you quality, he gives you a player that can play under pressure. He's a big game mentality. Don't know, he's done it all. And he also has leadership. And that is why he will help Callum McGregor. And that's why you'll get more out of Callum McGregor. Between now and then, there's only 12 games left. It's only a couple of weeks till we're in single figures. Do you know? I think a lot of people are losing sight of the fact that, do you know, the league is on the 4-3. It was 4-3. I knew it was something like that. Thanks for correcting me, George. It was 4-3. I mean, that's another 4 goals they've scored at home. That's 7 in the last 2 games. And why is that camera doing this? 2 seconds. Jeez. What was that all about? Hopefully that's sorted that out. A little bit of technical issue, as always. Who's the ref on Sunday? I put the ref up the other night, actually. Give me 2 seconds. Scottish referee appointments. The referee's appointments. Select teams. Celtic. You go through. It's like the doom. You didn't realise how many teams are in Scotland until you go into the SFA website. Celtic. Jesus Christ, where are they? Celtic FC. There we go. Dates: Saturday, Sunday. Search. I'm going to put the exact date in on Sunday. Why is it not doing it? I had it up, but it's not coming up on the site just now, on the SFA site. But I did have it up the other night. But anyway, getting back to Martin O'Neill talking about Oxlade-Chamberlain and the fact that he's got that leadership. And I think that that's what's been missing at the midfield. I mean, a lot of people say that, Calmack's pointy, and he's that's because he's having to tell the midfielders where they should be. You don't have to tell Oxlade-Chamberlain where he should be. He's a guy that's done it all at the top level. Highest level with Liverpool. Sold for £35 million from Arsenal to Liverpool in 2019. At the same time that we sold Kieran Tierney to Arsenal for £25 million. So you've got a player that you would think Callum McGregor isn't going to have to worry about in the midfield. He's not going to have to be looking about and see where the hell he is. Do you know what I mean? Oxlade-Chamberlain gives you that stability. And I think that that's what we needed. We needed someone in the midfield that was way more experienced than Arne Engels and Rio Hatate. And there comes the big question is where does Rio Hatate go from here between now and the end of the season? With only 12 games left. But as would you risk Ox at Rugby Park on Sunday with that diabolical plastic pitch? Says Typhoon McClustery coming out of Parkhead. It's a good question. I think only the player himself could answer that. I think you've got to take the player to the game, to the ground. And yeah, pretty much, yeah. Listen, I know that he's had injuries in the past, like Kieran Tierney, but he's kept himself fit. He's kept himself fit. He's been training every single day, and Martin O'Neill said that he almost had a team in the summer, but the deal fell through, and he ended up being out the game longer than he thought he was going to be out. So be it. Celtic pick him up, and Martin O'Neill doing what Martin O'Neill does. Get the absolute best out of players. Now, we'll talk about next season towards the end of the video, but bringing in Chamberlain raises the standards. Brings a professionalism in the midfield that we've not had. We can be perfectly honest. We've all complained about the midfield the majority of this season. A lot of people saying drop Callum McGregor, but I don't think that Callum McGregor is the issue. A lot of people say, "Oh, you're just backing Callum McGregor because he's the captain." I seriously don't think that Callum McGregor's the issue. You take Callum McGregor out of the team, what happened last year when Callum McGregor was injured. Everybody was crying out for Callum McGregor to get back because the midfield was that woeful without him. Bringing in Chamberlain, for me, your midfield to the end of the season, especially the Rangers games, is Chamberlain, McGregor, and Benji Negrin. Benji Negrin floats in and out of games though, but that's your midfield for me, and that's the way that you go. Arnie Engels, if he's injured, if Martin O'Neill still doesn't know exactly what the injury is. He said, but that was after last night. That was after the game last night. So you're not expecting Martin O'Neill to give you a medical analysis of Arnie Engels' thigh straight after the game. If it had been Friday, I mean, it was interesting that they did just, and I suppose it gave Martin O'Neill a bit of time off on Friday afternoon, rather than just getting the interview out last night. We'll just do the interview tonight for your Friday stuff, and then there's no interview Friday, Saturday. Gives us time to concentrate. Gives the manager time to concentrate with the players, because the players need picked up. And hopefully, seeing Chamberlain coming on that pitch, a few players might raise their level, raise their game. He said that he's made a big impact in training. Kieran Tierney says he didn't see him on the first day of training. He says, but the text messages that he got for the guys that were in training that day says he was absolutely phenomenal, and that you could tell that he was a £35 million player at one point. Lifting the mood, a player that has come here to win things. A player that's won everything that there is in football, but isn't finished quite yet, and wants to come to Scotland to win the league, to win the cup. And you never know. Let's just see where the Europa takes us. We might get absolutely demolished in Stuttgart. But I think as long as we can get a draw away to Stuttgart and we can win the game at Celtic Park, now that leads on to the fact that Oxlade-Chamberlain can show the younger players in the squad what elite mentality looks like, what it means to be a top-class player. And a lot of these players that are at Celtic right now, Arnie Engels for one, if they're looking for a £25 million move to a bigger league, a bigger club, they need to see what a player is like that trains at that level on a daily basis. Oxlade-Chamberlain will show them that. They will see how he acts. He's very down to earth, Martin O'Neill said, and you would never know that he had won what he'd won. That's what fantastic players do, though, and it is all about work ethic, something that I think has been lacking from the Celtic team this season. Martin O'Neill returning to the crowd anxiousness and about being the fans being nervy. He does also talk about the players that weren't included, and there was a lot of, why is Martin O'Neill dropped Mvuka already because he's pish? No, because the young guy was just over enthusiastic, and we're going to need him for other games. You can't get everyone on the bench. It's as simple as that. I said it last night. You're not going to get you're not going to get everyone. Somebody said last night on the live, you need to play players that you've just bought. No, you don't. You play players that you think will win that game. If it means you've just brought someone in and they don't get on the bench, it's because the managing and the backroom staff don't see him in part of the plans for the tactical game that is involved for that day. But Martin O'Neill says that Mvuka will be involved, will be in the squad and will be involved, and he will be needed. So a lot of people can just calm down with that one. Pass backwards, frustration. It's one of the worst things at Celtic Park, and the players seem to revert back to it. The amount of times that the ball went back to one of the worst, I'm going to say it again, is Rio Hatate. Callum McGregor gives ball to Rio Hatate. Rio Hatate, rather than going forward, he's got his back. He doesn't turn. He passes the ball back to Austin Trusty. Callum's giving him the ball for to turn and run forward, but he doesn't do it. he passes it back and then he tries to make a run. And he's not the fastest, and he doesn't get into the best positions. He had one good cross last night, I think. But anyway, if you give him abuse, it's the tension in the crowd last night. You could tell, and the relief when we scored was for everyone to see, especially if you're watching along last night, or if you watched the video that I put up of me just going berserk during the game last night. The title race. Martin O'Neill openly admits that he checks the table. It frustrates him to see where Celtic are in the table. It frustrates the hell out of us. And then he accepts that there's no room for manoeuvre. There's no, we can't afford to draw a game. Sitting with 2 minutes to go last night, and everyone that was on the live last night, I mean, there was over 13,000 people on the live last night, and the comments were that's it, the season's done. But upsteps Oxlade-Chamberlain and says, "Drink my holy water." This is how you take a shot under the bus. Rio throwing Callum a deaf ear. Still piss me thinking about it. Honestly, I couldn't believe what I'm seeing. I mean, he just comes on the pitch and Callum's telling him, right, this position, do this. And Rio's just looking ahead and not even acknowledging that Callum's speaking to him. And you must be sitting on the sidelines going, the fucking Rio, man. I'd love to know secretly what Sean Maloney thinks of Rio Hatate. Honestly. Fuck. Anyway. Martin O'Neill talking about recruitment. And talking about Oxlade-Chamberlain, talking about his spell in Turkey, his spell in Arsenal, saying that there's a player there that's got hunger, a point to prove, and at 32 should be at the peak of his game. He's at the peak of his maturity when it comes to being a football player. He should be at the peak of his game, and he's the type of player that should not be without a club. We need to make sure that we use him sparingly. Do you start him in games? A lot of people said last night, start Chamberlain, start him. No, you don't start him. You use him as the biggest impact player that we've had since the person that was on Celtic TV before the game started last night. And I'm going to put Oxlade-Chamberlain up there because he's about a year younger than Lubo Moravcik when he came to Celtic. Lubo Moravcik was 33 when he came to Celtic, and everyone went, Celtic are signing an old man that nobody had heard of. And he turned out to be a fantastic player for Celtic, and we've got a good few years at him. Now, Oxlade-Chamberlain does have the option to speak to Celtic at the end of this to add another year onto his contract. And I'm not going to jump the gun, but if that is what you get out of him after just an introduction to the game in Scotland, let's see how he does in a Glasgow derby and stuff. Because if he shines, definitely take him up in that contract option next year. Dressing room culture and the Stephen Welsh scenario. Martin O'Neill did address that, and he said that there was an opportunity that Stephen Welsh had to go to another club in the summer, and the deal fell through. It'd be interesting to find out who wanted to buy Stephen Welsh in the summer. And why did it fall through? But anyway, he ended up going to Motherwell. The player wanted to leave. He didn't want to be fourth choice defender. And you can understand Stephen Welsh, and I said, look, it was a good move all round. I'm going to Motherwell on loan. He had just signed an extension to his contract the year before. I think he's still got 4 years left on his contract, maybe. 3 years after this season that he'll still have on his contract. But him going to Motherwell, and I need to get, have I got it? Wait till I get this. Wait till I get this, because I'm going to get this on the screen. Let me just get the volume down. If you didn't see it last night, I suppose everyone did, bar me. everyone seen it bar me last night because everyone tuned into the game. And I went and got I went for a slash, as they say, and went and got a drink of water. But then this happened, unbeknown to me. Get in there, Welshie. Fucking get in there. Fucking get right in there. Absolutely fantastic. When I seen that back today, I'm like, there you go. That's what I want. You know, that's a player that knows he's one of us deep down. You know, he'll never forget that he was a Celtic player, and he still will be a Celtic player come the end of the season. But you know, maybe it is time for him to move on. And what a fantastic way for him to get into the Motherwell supporters. They just love him. And maybe Motherwell is his standard, you know. Motherwell's not a bad standard, let's face it. And you know, I couldn't get sick of watching that. Absolutely could not get sick of watching that. But anyway, we'll turn that off there, and then we'll get it off there. When you think about it, I mean, Stephen Welsh going to Celtic, coming through the ranks at Celtic, and then going to Motherwell and scoring a goal against the Rangers to get the draw. Happy days, happy days. And he knows that he's done his part to help Celtic stay within touching distance. Now, with the league the way that it is, we have to get realistic here, because there's a lot of teams where they're in a position that there's only 12 games left of the season. There's only 12 games left for Hearts, 12 games left for Rangers. 13, unlucky for some, they may say. Friday the 13th tomorrow. Maybe that's why Martin O'Neill didn't want to do an interview on Friday. Maybe he's a little bit superstitious. Martin, it's fine. Friday the 13th is a fantastic day for me, trust me. There's nothing unlucky about Friday the 13th at all. It is a brilliant day. It's always been my lucky day. But less about that, the better. When you look at the league table, Celtic are on 25 games. We're only 1 point behind Rangers. Goal difference will come into it. If we had scored the goals and the opportunities that we had last night, the table might have looked a little bit better. We wouldn't have been any closer points-wise, but the goal difference is going to come into play. And it's going to be squeaky bum time, especially when it gets to the top six split. If there's anything in it, if there's anything in it, it will be, if we're outdone by goals, it will be the biggest disappointment of the season, because goals has been the bugbear of this team all season. And the thing is we've known what's needed to be done. But anyway, we digress. Let's get back to Martin O'Neill and what he was talking about. Chamberlain. You could tell that he was relieved, slightly frustrated at the way that the game went, and a little bit tired. And I think that's probably the reason that he was saying, fuck this, we'll just get it over and done with tonight, and I don't have to see a lot of faces on Friday. But the big tactical takeaways from the game last night is the fact that Celtic could have been 3-0 up within the first 15 minutes. It was poor finishing, or was it great goalkeeping? That's the big question. Was it poor finishing by the Celtic players, or was it just, sometimes you've just got to say the keeper had a friggin' fantastic save. I mean, he made 9 shot-stopping saves. You know, if it's Kasper Schmeichel that does some of these saves, you know, you're thinking, fair enough, good keeper. Set pieces. Is it always going to be a bit of a vulnerability for Celtic, the back post thing? But it came from a penalty. You can't really factor in Rio Hitati being unaware of his surroundings and a player. The crowd anxiety. Does that affect the tempo? I think it does. It's Celtic Park. I think that you'll see a completely different game at the weekend. Now, if you're watching the game at the weekend, analyse the way the players play, because this reminds me of the Ronnie Dyler era, where the Celtic fans weren't all encompassing and weren't all that emotionally attached at Celtic Park to Ronnie. Don't know, there was that big empty bit of the stadium. There's a lot of pressure. We played better away from home under Ronnie, which was kind of weird. And the away fan base had such a relationship with Ronnie. Do you know the Ronnie roar and the you know the togetherness after games and stuff, and he just got on away. He had people that went to games at that time will know what I'm talking about. Do you know when you went away to away games then, it was completely different from being at Celtic Park, and I think that that's what's happening this season. And the players are now talking about, you know, we need to get the atmosphere back at Celtic Park. Tierney talking about it. Oxlade-Chamberlain talking about it. Do you know? What can you say? People go to the game and they sit in their arse and say nothing. The big narrative is that this season is one that's developing into the last minute winners. I really hope that they stop and that we start banging in some goals so that we can all settle the hell down, because I think that we all went through the emotional roller coaster. I'm glad that our mental stability is all fine. Although if you watched the watch along last night, you'd be like, ah, fuck that. We all need diazepam or something. To calm the hellers down. But overall, Oxlade-Chamberlain, great signing by Celtic. I've seen that Fat Chris Boyd has been saying, he's now reverted to saying, oh, a certain team dodged a bullet by not buying Arne Engels. Now he's in the media today saying, why didn't Celtic sell him if they knew Oxlade-Chamberlain was coming in? Why didn't they sell him for the 25 million? You couldn't give that guy a brass neck with a blowtorch the way that he turns around. In fact, he turns around quicker than old Rangers dying. Anyway, Oxlade-Chamberlain, the one thing that he can do is raise standards. He's made an immediate impact. He can make the players around him in the training fields, on the pitch, see what a top level player really looks like. Because these players have this ambition to go to a bigger league. There's a lot of talk about players going to a top 5 league. They've finally got someone at Celtic that was that's been there and done it all. I mean, we had Joe Hart in, but as a goalkeeper, it's a bit different when it's a goalkeeper. So, you know, for all the stuff that goalkeepers do, it's not the same as players on the pitch. Chamberlain, if he builds his fitness up, if he needs it built up, I don't think he does. But he's a player that can definitely change games. What the things that Celtic need to do is we need to take our chances. We need to kill games off, and that has been our issue all season. We need to keep control of the tempo a bit better, because there was at times, especially in the first half, when we let it drop off a bit and we allowed Livingston to come into the game. It's always going to happen. You're not going to control a game for 90 odd minutes. But I think when the players' heads do go down, it takes them a while to pick back up. And when you go into the second half, you see that the need for the substitutions was laid bare for everyone to see. But anyway, we then go on to what Kieran Tierney said at the interview that went out today. He admits that Celtic could have been, if they'd put the ball in the back of the net, 3-0 up within the first 20 minutes. We make it hard for ourselves, carrying on from what we were talking about. Livingston were never out the game. No, they were never out the game. And I think that that's one of the things that has been our downfall this season. And it's put us on nerve. Do you know, it has made us nervy. People will say, look, we've had 3 different managers. It's not the manager's fault, it's the player's fault. It's the way that the Scottish football is. And we need to have a manager and we need to get players in. Do you go to 4-4-2? There's Lauren just come up and said 4-4-2 moving forward. Who do you drop out in midfield in that scenario? Because it has to be, are you dropping out Benji Negrin? Because then you're left with Callum McGregor and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain as your midfield 2, and then with 2 wingers, and then 2 strikers. So do you put the wingers on that we've got? Do you put Benji Negrin out in the wing, where I don't think he's as effective? Some people think he is as effective out there, but I don't think he has the pace that we need for getting up and down the wing. 4-4-2 would be a better formation, especially going into the game at Ibrox, but we'll wait and see what Martin O'Neill does with that. Kieran Tierney says that the reoccurring theme, basically, it's classic dominance at Celtic without the ruthlessness. Kieran Tierney came through Celtic when it was a Celtic team that were dominant, because we all know we know the history of the trebles that were all won at that time, but we also had a team that had a ruthlessness about it, pace going forwards, and that, I'm afraid, is the big issue at Celtic. The pace coming out from the back. We don't play fast enough coming out from the back. Our 2 central defenders, I mean, they're all that we have between now and the end of the season. But I think next season, a manager, any manager, whoever it is that comes in, will look at Kieran Tierney. They won't look at Kieran Tierney. They'll look at Liam Scales, look at Austin Trusty and Cameron Carter-Vickers. And they will ask, are they good enough? Kieran, I've got to say, Liam Scales, when he does, and Trusty, when they do the one-touch stuff, the one-touch pass, when they play that football, but the overall thing within their game is they revert back to passing it about between them, slowing the game down, taking 3 or 4 touches. Why did they revert back to that? It must frustrate the hell out of the manager and the backroom staff, because that's what's stopping them. Being all honest, that is what's stopping them getting a big offer coming in for them. If they maintained that high level, high paced football as a defender, I don't want the ball. One touch and get it away to hell for me. That's what good defenders do. Some people say a good defender can run up through the middle of the park and score a cracker for 25 yards out. But a good defender wants the ball as far away up the park as he can. He'll get it out wide to either the fullback or a winger and get it away up the pitch. Our defenders, and this is Brendan Rodgers' fault, tappy, pass the back, fucking, and it's a worry when they go down that route. But it's just pointing out the obvious. Creating chances, not clinical enough, allowing the smaller teams to have a bit of belief, Kieran Tierney reiterated. Against teams in Europe, if that was a European team last night, we were beaten. We were well beaten. Let me just jump into some of the super chats that have come in. Stephen Johnson's done a super chat. Good evening, Baz. Hit the like button, everyone. Super chat from Barry T. Watched the Rocco interview, saying we need to kill games off at the start. Yeah, we do. I think we all know that. We all know that we need to kill teams off. We need to get 2 or 3 goals up in the first 20 minutes. If you score 2 goals in the first 20 minutes, teams cannot then sit back. It is a different game completely, a different mentality. Livingston then have to come out and play some football. Either that or it's just damage limitation. They either think, oh, that's it, Celtic have scored. We can't allow them to score anymore, so we just sit back. Celtic have got 1-0 up. It's just a waiting game then until we get another goal. The inability of Celtic to score in the first 5, 10, 15 minutes. I can remember my dad texted me about a month ago saying Celtic are shite this season. Celtic never score. We never score in the first 20 minutes of a game. Very rarely do we score in the first 20 minutes of a game. And I'm like, fair play, old man. Here's my father telling me. My father giving us football tactics in his 70s. But anyway, Kieran Tierney talking about the new signing and his psychological boost to the team. There's no better debut for you to score on your dream debut at Celtic Park. There's been quite a few players that have done it over the years, but I'll tell you one thing, Oxlade-Chamberlain and that curling shot for the edge of the box was absolutely sublime. Top level stuff, and it's been a while since we've had someone that can do that. A lot of the shots that Callum McGregor has goes with power and pace. There's not a lot of movement on the ball. One of the best ones that I can remember was Paul Lambert, when Paul Lambert went running up in the midfield and hit an absolute screamer for about 30 yards out past Stefan Kloss. And that curled away out beautifully right into the top corner of the net. And that was quality. Paul Lambert had that quality. Paul Lambert has won the Champions League. That's the difference. That is the difference. Something that a lot of the players need to have a good look at. But anyway, Kieran Tierney talking about the dressing room and the credibility in dressing rooms. When you sign a player who's played at big matches, who's won trophies, who scores on his debut, he's got the rights to walk into the dressing room and go, "All right, lads," you know, and hold my water. Kieran Tierney also said that you're never comfortable when it's at 1-0, 2-0. Even 3-0 in Scottish football isn't safe, especially with our dodgy defence. Celtic don't take fully control of games. There's still a vulnerability about us, and we rely on later moments in games rather than killing teams off. This undenying, reoccurring thing from everyone at Celtic right now is that we're not killing teams off. They know what needs to be done. And I know it's hard to try and get past when you've got 10 players in the box, or opposition players in the box, but we need to find a way. Talking about late winners, grinding out results, we never give up. Jesus, the momentum swings the other way. The one good thing about Kieran Tierney is he said that the squad believe that they will score. You know, the keeping on going, the we never stop thing that Ange Postecoglou, it wasn't just an Ange thing. Celtic have had late goals. Celtic have been the late goal specialists, especially under Tommy Burns. Jesus, if you want to talk about good scoring record of late goals, that was an era under Tommy Burns where it was just like, my God, it was almost like every week it was a late goal in the 89th minute, 80th minute. It wasn't as many goals in extra time in those days, but it was always the last 10 minutes of the game. Celtic really need to change that, don't they? The atmosphere. Kieran Tierney talking about the atmosphere. And that was an interesting one because we want the best atmosphere. We need an atmosphere and it pushes us along. You know, they want the fans back in. And I don't know how the meeting went with the Green Brigade today. I don't know if I've never looked at anything to see if there's anything online. So hopefully the Green Brigade can get back in. And everyone else that's boycotting, hopefully, because there was a lot of people that decided just to stay away from the game last night because they're not happy with the way that Celtic have been conducting themselves, even though Celtic said that they would talk to individuals. It's not happened as yet. There's one thing for sure. Kieran Tierney was very calm, controlled, and the way that he thought about everything to do with Celtic, you know that Celtic is still deep within him, and he's loving the fact that he's back. And I really do hope that the fans really start getting their acts together and start vocally backing and pushing the team on. And it's not about back the team, sack the board anymore. It's about just trying to push this. If we've got a single little ounce of hope to win in this league, the fans can do their bit. And I know that the players need to do it on the pitch, and people will say, well, if the players are playing shite, why should we cheer them? Sometimes the players are playing shite because of the anxiety that they feel off you 40 odd thousand people sitting there rattling your crisp papers. We need to learn from it. We need to learn to be more ruthless. Games aren't easy. Teams are well organised. Teams will come to Celtic Park and sit back with only 13 games left for Celtic. Is it the lucky or unlucky number? And can Celtic go on to jump up? And what would be the best result this weekend? That's the big one. Because when you see the games that are this weekend, before we jump into the comments, Saturday we've got Livingston versus Dundee. Livingston away to Dundee. That'll be an interesting one to see if Livingston play a different type of football. Falkirk versus Dundee United. Now that's a tasty game, isn't it? That's a very tasty game. And then you've got Hibernian versus St Mirren. Another one. I would say that would be a Hibernian win at home. Hibernian will want to get over their Derby despair of losing a goal in the 88th minute. They will want to rectify that by beating St Mirren comfortably, I reckon, at the weekend. And then it goes to Sunday. Kilmarnock versus Celtic, the early kickoff. Half an hour later, Motherwell entertain Aberdeen. Aberdeen finally get to play a game of football. It's only been, Jesus, they'll be well rested playing indoors at their indoor facility that they've got up in Aberdeen. They'll be well rested and well up for that game. That's a hard one to call because of the way that Aberdeen have been rested over the last couple of weeks. And then there's the top of the table clash. We have to call it what it is, unfortunately. For the moment, it's a top of the table clash. Only by default, we'll say it's a top of the table clash because when you look at the league table, Celtic are only 1 point behind with a game in hand. And if we'd beaten Aberdeen, we would be in second position. Let's just remember that. And we will be in second position at some point. And then we'll put real pressure on the Hearts. I'll come into the Super Chats in just a minute. Thank you to the people that are giving me Super Chats. And who do you want to win that one at the weekend? Let me just jump back onto this screen. Who do you want to win that one? Obviously, we're doing a watch along for the game that starts at 2 o'clock, the Kilmarnock Celtic game. I don't want to watch that game because every time I watch them, they win. Can Hearts seriously do something at Ibrox? Should we watch the second half live? I don't know. We'll wait and see at the weekend. But there's one thing for sure. Hopefully, there might be a good bit of change at the top of the table this weekend. Because if Celtic can go out and win, and then Hearts beat Rangers, or do you want it to be a draw? Do you want it to be a Rangers win? I don't think there's any time that Celtic fans really want Rangers to win, but this could be one of those crazy, crazy fucked up weekends. Evening Baz in the chat, hope everyone's well, says, "We Mitch, Celtic girl," says, "Hail, hail." And Gus says, "Love your channel." Thank you, mate. Thank you. Thank you all for the super chat also. But getting back to, I will come to the comments in a couple of minutes. Don't worry. We've still got 17 minutes or so to go. We managed to rabbit on myself in 45 minutes nearly. When you look at the games that are coming up this weekend, Kilmarnock versus Celtic, Motherwell versus Aberdeen, you would take Motherwell to win that one. Hearts versus Rangers. Do you think that that would be a draw? Could be an interesting though. Typhoon McFlustery says, where is it? A draw keeps everyone happy, but a Hun win would, and we win our game in hand, we would go top of the league. I know it is. The permutations now are You know, what do you really want? What would be the best result? I think I'll have to for Sunday, won't I? Stocking up on Vino Tinto and dog feet. Let's throw Doug some food. Because yeah, it's going to be. It could be what they call in the game a Super Sunday, and we might have to do a Super Sunday on YouTube. I think we'll have to, don't we? Because either way, doesn't really matter what happens, does it? Because it's I know Joseph. I never want that. I never want them to win either. But I've got a funny feeling that game abandoned, no points. No, you don't want that. You want a draw. You want a draw. And not sacked. So Engels will be glad he didn't jump ship. Grass isn't greener. Well, what it says. Soup on Sunday is okay for me. Soup Sunday. Soup Sunday. It's all right for you. I can't sit and munch away munchies when I'm sitting here live. You know what I mean? Anyway, right, let's jump off that. I think we've went through everything that I was going to go through tonight. Talking about Oxlade-Chamberlain, Tierney, talking about the fact that Tierney says we're not clinical enough, we're leaving teams in games, we're not firing, we're not ruthless, but we are gaining momentum. Let me jump into some of the comments and see what you're all saying to it this lovely evening. Oh, mate, I'd absolutely. That was one of the good things that I used every time when I go home, I try and nip into Edinburgh, and there's a pub down the Grassmarket that does one of the best Cullen sinks ever, and it's just get a wee cheeky pint and a wee bowl of soup, bit of bread. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. A bit of a super. It's my birthday this weekend. Celtic must win. Go on, Lorna. Start you like 21 again. Absolutely fantastic if we get the win. I think for now we should just concentrate on ourselves, Baz, and let them worry about their own games. Yep, Jim, I think you're right. And that's what Martin O'Neill says. That's what Kieran Tierney says. Do you know, it is the Jesus Christ, mate. Wait a minute till I jump onto Facebook till I see this. Celtic fans. There's a message. Let me just get this super chat. Buzz, I sent you my coupon on Facebook Messenger last night. So that's where the Welsh one. I never seen the first message. Oh, look at that. So he put a bet on Celtic, £50 bet on Celtic to return 100 quid, and he cashed out 100 quid. Cashed out 100 quid. Fair play to you, mate. Absolutely fair play to me. That's absolutely brilliant. I love it when folks stick a little bet on it and they come up absolutely fantastic. Thank you for the £50 super chat. Oh man, absolutely brilliant. Sorry, I didn't see that. I've not been on Facebook today. I've had other stuff going on today, which and I wasn't really looking at Facebook last night. So apologies for not seeing that message. As I say, I've had it's been quite a big day for me here, and thank you for that. no, seriously, thank you for it, because it has been it's been. I've had a family member's birthday today back in Scotland that I obviously wasn't at, and I had a little bit of certain bit of paperwork that I needed to get filled in, and yeah, Spanish bureaucracy at its best, but it was a doddle, and it's thank you for that. Thank you. What a day. What a day. Honestly, I've actually had it's anyway, right. Let's. You've totally got me there. I'm just thinking about what's actually happened today. It's snowing in Lanarkshire. Seriously, it's snowing in Lanarkshire. Hit the like button and hurt my tongue. There you go. That's a bit sick, but anyway, right. That is me done and dusted for this evening. I'm away to try and chill out. After a mental day and a mental amount of super chats. Thank you all for the super chats this evening. Thank you to Melly Boy for that fantastic super chat. Also, who put a bet on last night, 50 quid, and he got his 50 quid back and gave me another 50 quid. Google takes their little share, but anyway, never mind about that. What an absolutely fantastic evening. Well, I don't even know what the numbers are this evening for the video. It's a little bit down compared to what it has been. But it's always great to just have you along. Right, I will be going just now. I will do a live tomorrow afternoon at some point for the members on the channel. I will do a live tomorrow afternoon. I don't know when it is yet because I've got stuff to do in the morning. Obviously they'll be live in the morning. Hopefully, if something else doesn't stop that. We never even spoke about the B team. We'll speak about that for the next 8 minutes. The B team. The B team. There is a poll running. There's been 300 votes. Let's stop the poll right there. Should Celtic pull out of the Lowland League? Let's talk about that tomorrow. Anyway, we'll talk about that tomorrow morning because 68% of you want Celtic to come out of the Lowland League. Is it good enough for Celtic players? Is it good enough for their development? I don't think so. Let's talk about that in the morning. On that note, have an absolutely fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are, all around the world.